Welcome traders. This is the Mastering TQQQ Trading Weekly Review with your host Ethan Roberts, looking at the week ending June 18th, 2026, and we're going to dive into that right away. Well, last week, TQQQ traders shook off the panic from the prior week, and chip stocks led a powerful recovery. And here's my buddy, the newspaper guy, showing you the headline. The week began on Monday with a massive relief rally after news of a U.S.-Iran agreement reduced geopolitical tensions and sent oil prices tumbling down about 5%. Those lower oil prices eased concerns that the market had about inflation, and TQQQ ended up surging by 9.1% on Monday, dramatically outperforming the broader market. TQQQ was led by semiconductor and AI stocks. The volatility that we had seen in the previous week totally collapsed, and traders aggressively bought the dip following the previous week's sell-off. However, after Monday's surge, traders began to shift their attention to the Federal Reserve meeting amid concerns about whether inflation was truly under control, what was going to happen with new chair Kevin Warsh, and the possibility mentioned that rate cuts could be delayed or even reversed later in 2026. Technology shares lost all momentum as investors digested the Fed's outlook. For TQQQ traders, this was a reminder that geopolitical relief rallies can be very explosive. Fed concerns can quickly cap any upside, and by Wednesday's close, TQQQ had given back 99% of the gains made on Monday of this week. It was a true lesson in the volatility that this ETF has. However, Thursday was another story as the buyers returned. It was the final trading day of the week as markets closed on Friday in observance of the Juneteenth holiday. Despite a hawkish Fed tone, stocks rallied again as oil prices declined amid hopes for a swift reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Investors focused on improving inflation prospects. Semiconductor stocks exploded higher. Intel, Nvidia, Micron, and other chip names led the gains. President Trump announced that Intel will partner with Apple on designing chips right here in the U.S. And TQQQ rose 6.87% to finish the holiday-shortened week very strongly. To summarize the week, for someone who actively trades TQQQ, I would characterize this week as a successful retest of dip buying demand. TQQQ showed the resiliency for which it's famous. The most important takeaway wasn't Monday's huge rally itself. It was that buyers were willing to aggressively accumulate technology stocks after the prior week's double-digit decline. That suggests institutional money still views the intermediate trend as constructive rather than the beginning of a major bear phase. Well, I want to take this opportunity to point out to my listeners that I have a new website. It's called TQQQacademy.com. It's brand new. It consists of full-length courses, mini courses, and ebooks covering TQQQ and all of its facets, as well as other Wall Street related courses. And you can see on the left and the right here some of the different courses that you'll find there. So please visit my website, and you'll find all kinds of information that will help you to become a better trader with TQQQ. I will put the TQQQacademy.com website in the comments section below this video. All right, let's take a look at the biggest Nasdaq 100 winners this week. Western Digital Corp, symbol WDC, had a weekly gain, a huge weekly gain, 32.56%. Total for 2026, 333.17%. That is just unbelievable. If you had a $10,000 purchase of Western Digital Corp at the very end of December, you're now looking at over $30,000. Micron Technology, you know that name very well, 15.52% gain this week, and a total just under 300% for the year. And ARM Holdings, symbol ARM, had a weekly gain of 15.40%. This one finished very strongly on Friday, and its 2026 gain is just a little bit over 300 at 302.03. These stocks have been extremely strong all throughout the year, and they had great weeks bouncing back again this week. Now let's take a look at some of the analyst actions during the week we just had. Wolf Research analyst Alex Zukin upgraded Palantir Technologies from underperform to peer perform, which basically is the equivalent of neutral. Stifel analyst Brad Reback downgraded Intuit from buy to hold and lowered the price target from 375 to 275. Intuit has had a very rough year. And Stifel analyst Brian Chin raised the price target for Micron Technology from $550 to $1,500 while maintaining a buy rating. Not to be outdone, Wedbush analyst Matt Bryson also raised the price target on Micron from $550 to $1,300 while maintaining an outperform rating. I got to ask, where have these analysts been all this while? Micron's been going up and up and up, and it's well over $1,000 a share. So why have they been sitting on these price targets of $550 for so long? Now I want to show you the chart on Wednesday. On Wednesday, the Fed revealed that 9 out of 19 policymakers now project at least one rate increase by the end of 2026. This took the market by surprise. They were not expecting this. New Fed Chair Kevin Warsh also ended the traditional forward guidance, which normally details the future path, extent, and timing of interest rate cuts and policy adjustments. Wall Street, again, taken by surprise. The red candle, you see the big red candle right here where the white arrow is? Right there is where the Fed made their announcement. And prior to that, TQQQ was having a pretty good day. It had just about crossed the 8 EMA, had just about crossed the 20 SMA right here. And boom, the announcement came in. And this red candle dropped $2.30 from 81.28 all the way down to 78.98 in just 5 minutes. We had a little bit more selling and then a bounce back followed by another sell-off. Now I want to show you the 10-day chart of TQQQ using 60-minute time frames. After just a few days of the 8-period EMA falling below the 20-period SMA, you can see that right here, we had a bounce back, and it's now crossed above the 20 SMA one more time, reflecting new bullish action in the TQQQ. That doesn't mean that every single day it's going to go higher. It just means that the trend has now reversed. The white arrow shows the crossover point right about there. And you can take a look at the TQQQ price chart for the week. Going back to last Friday, it closed at 77.52. It had been a tough week. But Monday, we had this huge bounce back up to 82.88. We hit a high for the week of 85.03. Closed pretty nicely at 84.59 on 59 million shares. But that was followed by a lower open on Tuesday. The high for the day was lower than the previous day, and we ended up closing all the way down at 79.93. Then came Wednesday. We had a higher opening, which was nice, The high was again lower than the previous highs. The low was lower than the previous lows, and we closed at 77.54 on 77 million shares. And here's our bounce back on Thursday. 82.09 was the open. We hit a high of 83.60, which was nice to see because we surpassed the previous day's high. The low was also higher than the last couple of days, and we closed at 82.93 on 59 million shares. I have a little bit of a concern that we saw more volume on the down days than on the up days, but it was still nice to see us bouncing back. Now here are the daily technical indicators for TQQQ. The 8-period EMA is at 79.53 and the 20-period SMA is at 80.13. Now, this is still bearish because the 8-period is below the 20. We always want to see it above the 20. But these two have been rising together, and another day or two of good action would actually bring us to a point where the 8-period will be above the 20-period. The RSI-2 is at 72, which makes it slightly overbought, but we still have plenty of room. Typically, the RSI-2 will go up to anywhere between 90 and 98 before it reverses. The RSI-14 is at 57, which is neutral and rising, which is a good sign. And the Stochastic is at 62 and change. In the neutral zone, fell slightly on Friday, but still okay. And here is a longer-term chart, 10-month chart. And you can see this parabolic spike that we had for the entire month of April and most of May, followed by this pullback. We again, the 8 crossed below the 20, and now it's trying to work its way back. It's a little tough to see here, but basically they're almost running parallel to each other at this point. Now, if you're an option trader looking ahead for next week, with TQQQ finishing at 82.87 on Thursday, the calls with the greatest volume are the 84 call and the 85 call. We've got some pretty rich premiums here, as you would expect, following the good day on Friday. And if you're looking to either buy or sell puts, the greatest volume is at $80 and $78. The bids here, a little on the lean side. Basically, I think traders are still expecting TQQQ to go up. All right, taking a look at the week ahead, we have earnings reports on Wednesday for Micron. That's going to be a big one. That will certainly move the market. The forecast is for earnings per share of $20.57, and Paychex, the forecast for earnings per share of $1.31. Traders will continue to watch the price of SpaceX, which gave back most of its gains by the end of the week, unfortunately, the Iran talks, the price of oil, and any further word from the Fed. Well, this is Ethan Roberts. I want to wish you a very happy and successful trading week, and I'll see you next time.